We're going to do a painting with alcohol ink, and this time my accent's going to be purple. And also another spin, I'm just using the paintbrush only. So a few different techniques. Let's have some fun. All right, let me start you off with some of the prep that I've already done. I've got these little ceramic dishes. They're actually stackable. You can use them for multiple different types of paint. And what I've done is I put a bunch of alcohol in here and a couple of drops of some of the colors I'm going to be using. So I've got like a nice rich purple here. I've got a lighter tone purple, and then one of the grays, and a brown. And I've got an extra one here that is ready to go if I need to use it. And that way I'll just dip my paintbrush in. I've already got something that's watered down a little bit, and I can just have access to it right away. And if I need to add to it, just either add a little bit of alcohol or add a little bit more color to bump up the density of the color, or just create another one. And I've also got my paper plate, which I've only done drops of the ink into it. So when you're using darker colors, sometimes it gets a little trickier. And yeah, I've got tails on all these. I'm gonna get a hard time with some people that I know, my buddies. But what I tried to do is, let's see if you can get a little closer and you can see. So you can tell that this one here has a little bit of a brownish tint to it. Some of these are on the grayer side. That's a gray. This one is straight black. And the tail's just diluted a little bit. This one you flat out can't tell, but it's the darker purple. So let me see if I can do this one-handed. I'm going to try and take my lid off the Copic marker one-handed. This is either going to be bad. Yeah, and I should have my gloves on, but I don't yet. Okay. And I'm also very right-handed, and I'm on the phone with the right hand. Okay, so all I literally do is make a little puddle with my alcohol ink. And if it dries, it's not a big deal. Add a couple little drops of alcohol directly onto it, wiggle it around with a paintbrush, and you can reactivate your color. So, you know, a week, 2 weeks, a month later, if I want to use my plate again, I just add a little bit of alcohol and pick up some color. Like, let's say I'm doing another painting. I've got a portrait going on. She's got a shirt that's all green, but there's little touches of purple in there. I could activate that purple instead of digging out all of this. I just touch on that and I got my little purple on hand. So it's kind of a little handy tool to have. And paper plates, you know, they're not that expensive. This one does have a coating on it. It's those kind that when you, let's say, put a soupy mess on here like barbecue and all that, it doesn't bleed through. So definitely get paper plates like that. And that way, you don't have a big mess on the bottom. So that's kind of an important thing. So at any rate, let me put this up in the cradle and then we're gonna get started. Okay. So, I had a little bit of alcohol to those little pans there, or my little palettes, because it's surprising how fast alcohol ink will dissolve. And I dripped these down here just before I turned on the camera, and already like a couple, like this one's almost completely evaporated, and you can see how much this one has slowed down on the movement, and I did that one on camera. So yeah, add a little bit more to this. Okay, and all you gotta do to reactivate it is just a couple of drops of alcohol and you're good to go. I'm just gonna go ahead and give these a couple drips anyway. Okay. And I've got a couple of cups here with just a little bit of alcohol in case I needed to drip off my brush, and a paper towel that's folded up to clean off my brush occasionally if I want to. So don't have a lot of plan right now. I'm gonna build up a lot of colors, probably in more of a central zone. I do like having kind of a negative effect, meaning like a busy area, and then having some white. Oh gosh, my words are not gonna be working today. I can already tell. This could be interesting. Okay, So let's get started and just start messing with it. Of course, I gotta grab the purple first because, no, that's just me. So you see how that's already fairly washed out with adding just a little bit of alcohol to it. And when I go over the colors, I'm gonna pick up a little bit of the color, like I'll pick up a little bit of that purple with the gray just by running my brush over it. And I'm just building on my layers, seeing how things happen. Kind of let the colors or the painting talk to me a little bit. All right, I'm gonna jazz it up and get a little bit more interesting here. All right, I'm gonna go for some of this lavender here. I don't know if that's the actual color name, so don't quote me on that. I'll put a photo at the end of my video, so that way you actually see the colors that I use, because sometimes I have a plan, and then sometimes I change it on the fly. I know we all do that. Let's see. Now this purple here is already starting to evaporate pretty good. And if you notice, it almost does a dry brushing there. I don't want that to happen. I don't mind the saturation of the color because I really like rich tones. But I do want it to run a little bit more fluid, so I'm going to add a little bit more alcohol and pick that up. Okay. And I usually keep my bottles on the side that I'm using open when I'm working on a project, just for easy access, so I can keep the flow going. Let's see. Yep. I have to admit, the pinata squirt out a little bit easier. And remember, I had a lot of purple on this brush before I picked up some more of this brown. So, not that worried about it. I'm just gonna let the magic happen with alcohol ink. And I might even go, this is black, so it's gonna be a little stronger. I might even go and just dip my brush into straight alcohol and see what happens too. But I think I might do that right now. And I'm not even worried about cleaning off my brush. I'm just letting things happen. Actually, I lied. I'm gonna clean off my brush a little bit. That royal purple is very, or looks like a royal purple, very saturated color. So you got to be careful about that. Let's see. I'm going to bump up the neutrals just a little bit. And sometimes alcohol is kind of rough on your brushes, so Okay, y'all are gonna laugh at me. I went and I got some brushes, and this came up, this link did, for some unicorn brushes, and I think they also have mermaid brushes. They're fairly inexpensive, but I figured if I'm gonna hurt my brush, you know, might as well do it on a fairly inexpensive brush. But I have to admit, when the bristles came in, I was really happy with the kind of bristles they were. So they'll work really well with the alcohol ink. If anybody's interested in the link, let me know. It's kind of a silly thing, but it works pretty well here. I also kind of have done the same thing with some other ones. Like, you know how it is when you're working with a medium that you know is going to trash out your brushes. You don't want to destroy your good ones unless you absolutely need to have a good quality brush. So if I don't need a good quality brush, might as well have some fun with it. And the other thing that's good is that it's very recognizable because it's such a silly brush that I know it's not one of my good art brushes. So I know exactly where to put it as far as when I put stuff away. I'm gonna reactivate this guy a little bit. When they get watered out like this, you can really see the colors that they used within this gray. There's a lot of green tones, some warm tones in here. It looks like there's a little bit of red in there too on how it's drying. You can start seeing the breakup of the colors. See how it's doing right in there? I've got a lot of lines in here, but you get a little bit of texture with the blends. I really like that. All right, I've got that. And what I'm gonna do now is work on some really lighter tones out in here. Clean off my brush a little bit. All right. And see how that alcohol really washed out that gray? A little bit there. And I can even bring that in to the middle area and it'll act as like an alcohol swipe through it as well. This light pink is super, super light. Now, a lot of times I think about using alcohol ink in a fashion for, I don't know why I said the word fashion, as being a step. Because most of the time when I'm using alcohol ink, my next step is using resin. So my mind usually wanders a little bit while I'm doing this, and I'm already thinking of how can I apply resin to bring it up to the next level. And since I'm working with lines here, why not work with lines with the resin as well? And that could be really, really interesting and bring on a lot of dimension. Now you see how it's starting to get really, really complex? And the complexity comes with many, many, many layers. So I like that. All right, let's see, I'm gonna bring in this again. And you just keep on working it until you're like, yep, I'm good with that. Sometimes it's really easy to tell, sometimes it's not so easy. Sometimes it happens super fast. I had one happen super fast recently. Like, I thought I was done with the dark purple, but I think I want to add a few more dark purple lines in here. add some black in here. To me, black helps color pop sometimes. Depends on how you use it. I kind of really like that. That's the alcohol plan. Gives it kind of a watercolory look to it. It's like, do I want to put that down yet? I don't know. All right. It's like a really strong neutral line there. I was trying to break it up just a little bit. All right, now I'm going to run some alcohol lines through this and see if we can encourage some of the action to happen. Most of my action's happening over here, so I need to start with my alcohol on this side. I'm drawing my lines. And then I'm going to get some more action going on over there. And sometimes if you drop some alcohol on, you'll get that little dot that'll kind of bleed out. And if you don't want that dot, just go back over. In other words, I just dripped some right here, and then I just went over immediately and just kind of spread that dot on out. So it became an intentional design. It's like, yeah, I meant to do that. Stuff always is gonna happen. And it's just a matter of trying to figure out how to work with it when it does happen. And since this is so light, I'm not even bothering dipping back in my ink. I'm just carrying the color that I already have on the brush down and then going up a little bit with my dirty brush. See, it's gonna pick up some purple here. Not that much purple. Let's try to pick up a little more. There we go. All right, I don't know. I'm gonna clean off my brush just a little bit. Pick up some brown. Just so I can give it a little balance here. Now I wanted to go a little bit slower through that black because I was trying to break up the line. In fact, I might do it one more time. Okay, I think this is a good place to stop it at. I think. I'm debating. Do I want to add a metallic? All right, brain is kind of going, yeah, just a little bit. All right, so I've got, this is what I was talking about, the palettes being helpful and handy. I've got a couple like gold and silver and copper metallic just sitting on here on the palette. It's dry, and I'm just gonna activate it a little bit. And I'm thinking silver today. So I've got a thinner brush, and I'm just gonna put it in here and just kind of rub it around. And see, it's picking up some of that silver nicely. Now it's not gonna be super strong. It's gonna be washed out a little bit. So it's gonna leave some little accents of silver without it being super strong. And I'm kind of okay with that. Because the likelihood of me adding a little bit of a metallic with a resin coat is pretty high. So it'll just play off of what I've got going on here. And when I do brush on this metallic like this, where it's watered down, it disperses really fast. In other words, by the time I get to here to about here, most of my metallic is off my brush already. So that's why I start sometimes on that side and I start sometimes on this side. And then occasionally I make sure that I go over a strong color to make sure you can see it just a little. Yikes. Okay. Let's see. There we go. There's a good demonstration of how it will start to brush out. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pick up my bigger paintbrush and just get straight alcohol and see if I can loosen that up a little bit so it doesn't look so dry brushy in a white zone. And that did nicely. All right, is there any other spots I need to hit? No. Okay, I think this is nice and simple enough and ready for resin. So I'm going to bring you down for a close-up. Hang on. Yeah, I think that'll work well. All right. So if we go, let's see if I can go in an angle here. And you start to see the little shimmers of silver. Let's see, we know there's a lot over here. But it's very subtle because there's a lot of alcohol on there. So that looks nice. All right, so we're gonna start here. Marcy with Mixed Media Girl, she always starts on the right corner. I have to admit, it's rubbed off. So Marcy, if you ever see any of my videos, you're the reason I'm doing it on the right corner. All right, so basically I'm using a couple of browns, or I should say neutral colors. So in this case, it's actually, 2 grays and 2 shades of purple, and then a little bit of a brown in there, and then an accent of a silver or a metallic. So it's actually a fairly simple color palette. And you can do this very easily. So that should look really pretty with some resin on top of it, giving it a little extra dimension. Okay, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, but definitely hit that bell to get notified next time I put a video up. See you guys later.